last year Brodie had the pole, achieved that in the top 10 shootout, and there is the man who is the reigning champion, missed 6 races earlier in the year. David's good to go. Obviously, we're going to hear from Rihanna in just a tick as well, so let's hear from him now.
Dave, firstly, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, more than fine, actually. Like, I'm just really angry that happened, but, you know, like, we're pushing the limits, and every now and again that happens. Obviously, I'm not as skilled as Luffy. He saved it yesterday, and I crashed it.
I know you make light of this, but I mean, as you said, it's so easily done. Just tell us where it went wrong for you.
Yeah, like, I'm pushing really hard. Obviously, it's qualifying. My car was getting better, and, you know, I probably shouldn't have stayed up at that second lap because obviously the tyres start to go away and everything gets way more skatey. I probably just sort of put the next set on and go. But, yeah, I was probably pushing too hard for the condition, and, yeah, I got bitten bad.
We're glad you're okay. Thank you, Dave.
I'll always be okay.
Doing a good job of brushing it off there. The thing that was really significant about the lap that he was on, he was less than a tenth slower in the first timing intermediate than the fastest that had been achieved at that point. Yeah. So he was on for a lap, and as he just said, you're at the very limit. It's really hard for us to properly describe what the limit looks, feels, sounds like around this racetrack. But they are on the teetering edge. The only way that you can make lap time at Mount Panorama is to be a heartbeat away from throwing it in the concrete.
Absolutely.
But with precision and smoothness and a rhythm in what you do. And so that's why we celebrate how skillful those are that get to the end of these laps, on these push laps, and get away with it, because it is unbelievable. And that is an ugly sight that they'll be greeted with when they get to the top of the hill. They'll all have a long, hard look at that, and it might take a little while for that to just clean up and end up with a race line groove back in there.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So what you've got to do now is park the car right in on the coach sign on the inside and have the car right against that inside curb before you plunge it down into the Gazoo Racing left-hander at the dipper. So all of that outside area, as Dave picks up this chat with Jack Perkins, and Jack obviously feels for the mistake. So as you can see, everyone's hard to the right. The problem is, if you make a similar error to what David Reynolds made earlier, and you get a little bit wide, you have to go across all of that before you hit the fence. It's bad.
So this bit of it will actually clean up pretty quickly, but you're right. 2 kilometres an hour too quick over the top of the hill. That'll park you further to the left of the ideal race line there. And what you're doing all the way off the top of the hill at Skyline to the dipper there is you're modulating the brake pedal, and you've got the car absolutely dancing on its nose down there. And if you haven't fully attacked it, yes, you can place the car where you want, but when you're at a maximum Q lap, there is no room to move there. There's not another millimetre. You're just basically in a momentum scenario, and you're trying to find the apex of the Gazoo Racing dipper when you get out the other side. And if you're lucky, you get there.
Yep. Interesting strategy call from Penrite Racing. They've decided to hold both cars, not go out there while the track is dirty. They believe they've got time for 2 more runs. They're going to go out when everyone else comes back in, so just watch them to be slightly out of sync with the rest of the field.
It's not a bad idea, I reckon, given these conditions at the moment. So Waters has gone out, pressing on. Needs to see what he's dealing with. We've got 20 minutes remaining. Sounds like a decent number, but remember the lap time length around here, north of 2 minutes. And when you're cycling into your lap, clearly when you're rolling out of the lap, it takes a long time around here. So you're only going to get a handful of push laps from this point. You're going to have to hope that racetrack cleans up. If you're only just joining our coverage, we've got just a little over 19.5 minutes remaining. Redco Bathurst 1000, race 20 of the championship for 2024, and we're in qualifying mode this afternoon. And we will determine positions 11 through 26 on the grid. But for the lucky 10 that hang on here, they'll get an opportunity to try and vie for the pole position for tomorrow. On board here with Cam Waters over the top of the hill, where the speed's hovering around 200 kilometres an hour, and now making the approach to McPhillamy. Car dances on 2 wheels here. Kisses that inside curb, has to reset the throttle a couple of times. And right here, in this spot, was where Reynolds got it crossed up, and even Cam was battling the rear of the car there. There's the grubby bit of the racetrack on the run to the dipper. Second gear, 80k is one of the 2 slowest locations on the track at the dipper. Back to 185 kilometres an hour on the run to the elbow. Second gear left-hander here, about 85 kilometres an hour. And then a chance to stop and think about what comes next. But shifting those gears with extreme accuracy, using the shift lights, and then trying to plan where you want to grab that brake pedal at the bottom of the chase.
James Golding has just done the fastest first sector. So across the top, and we were on board there with Cam Waters, he which is about 0.8 of a second slower than Kostecki's fastest time across the top. So Golding has just demonstrated that the first part of the lap to the top of the hill at Sulman Park is as fast now as any time of the session. Brock Feeney has just done the fastest sector 3, and Feeney comes up to a 6.25, just in front of his teammate.
What's interesting now is if you add all the sectors across 3 drivers and 3 different teams, that best time is a 5.6.
Yep.
That'd be a sexy number. Now, Chaz Mostert's gone quicker over the top of the hill, so he is going quick here at the moment. We pick him up in the chase. In the Mobile Optus Racing Mustang, in the braking area. Golding fast, as you pointed out, Mark. And his Cume at the moment is probably going to lift him beyond the current 9th position. Waters is the fast man at the moment. His rival and mate Chaz Mostert into the final corner here. He's down the order in 18th position. Where does this land him? Position number 3 on a 6.2 for Chaz.
Nice job.
Golding, 6.1. So we've got 0.13 of a second as LeBrock jams one in here as well on a 2:06.0773. Very, very close to the back of Cam Waters. We jump on board now with Waters over the top of the hill. And his first sector on this lap is about 3 seconds away. This is not indicative this lap.
So he's backed it off. But a very nice job by Jack LeBrock and James Golding. Also Chaz Mostert, because they've all just capitalised on those numbers. And they've all done very low 6s, which has put them firmly into the top 10. So now you're looking at Matt Payne and Richie Stanaway, who are parked in the, they didn't do the first part of this session. They've now gone out because they've seen other people capitalise. Now, Brock Feeney has just done a number that's better than anybody else by a mile. That 24.7, that's going to do like a 5.7 or 5.8 if he can finish this lap.
He did a mighty job at the bottom of the chase there. He got it in really deep, Mark, and the direction change was smooth into the final corner here. Feeney at the moment is every chance to end up sitting at the top of the tree. No space on the right-hand side of the car.
5.7.
First time that we've seen a 5, the fastest number this weekend. 4-time winner Jamie Whincup and 7-time champion applauds. 0.24 of a second, Feeney over Waters. That's a big, big number. We'll probably see some more 5s. There's a little bit of sunlight on the racetrack, though, at the moment, and that just might hedge against that.
Young Paul Jones is actually on quite a good lap here. In fact, this number at the moment might just bounce him to very close to the back end of the top 10. Where does he go to? 13th. Nice job, 6.58.
Feeney, Waters back in the lane. LeBrock in position number 3. So both those Erebus cars speedy at the moment, as we just show you one of the super slow-mo replays up the top. And Aaron Love, contact with the wall right rear of that car, and that'll need careful inspection to make sure that there's no inboard damage there.
Yeah, it's buckled that wheel straight away.
Yeah.
You can see the back, the rear shot there. Oh, and that's Brody, who's done a similar thing. Okay. And I think that wheel is also buckled, Neil. You can just see it as he comes over the top of the hill. Actually, both wheels are buckled. So front and rear wheels are buckled on that car. Now, that will have a wheel alignment issue in context with the hit that we've just seen. There you go.
Now, this is important. We've got 14 odd minutes remaining here. This is the last thing that you need in qualifying, is to start stripping bits to straighten it all up. So it's clearly bent something there. That was a big whack. So Brody's drifted down into position number 4 here. And we might find that there's a bit of happy hour crazy at the back end of this session. And if more and more people start to get into the low 6s and high 5s, you could be under threat. Let's have a look at the replay again and just understand a bit more. So it was on the slide as it came into frame. He sat it up on the top of the curb and really mounted that curb hard and hit the wall squarely. But you can see the damage it's done on both right-hand side wheels. And it looks like, based on what we saw on the ground there with the wishbone, that the right rear in particular has taken a big whack. George Commons is the engineer on the radio comms there at the moment.
And there'd be people in that garage there now saying, I hope a 615 keeps me in, because you might not get another run.
Aaron Love, that was the other car that we saw rubbing the wall up there, right rear corner of that car. And it was Todd Hazelwood at the door of Brody's vehicle that we were just witnessing a couple of moments ago. So Feeney, Waters, LeBrock, Kostecki, Golding, they're all back in the lane. But then the next batch of drivers, positions 6 through 17, are all still out there on the racetrack at the moment. So a 5.7 also tells us that that racetrack is in pretty fair condition up at the top of the hill, provided you don't step wide of the line.
Yeah, and I just saw when Di Pasquale went through that section, or that inside running right against the right-hand side extremity against the curb on the inside of the right-hander before the dipper was actually quite clean. So they've done a really good job of cleaning that up. Obviously, everyone on the same line there. And when you get that volume of car and you've now done essentially 2 laps each through there, you've been able to clean that up properly and maintain what is a very important racing line. If you can hold the car tight there and get it off the dipper, there's time to be made. If you run wide, you're in trouble.
Weird rarity. Davison, Winner, Bottom and Hill, all straight line, the run-off shortcut, that skyline on that last lap. I wonder whether there's any deterioration in the surface up there at the moment, for whatever reason.
Or maybe somebody went off on that right-hand side of the dirt there. Remember, we saw that before behind the curb. Now, Stenaway, after that, has come up there now, Neil. So he's come up to 4th with a 6.10.
The impact of that is his teammate Payne is 10th on a 6.4, and he's right on the cusp. So Jackson Evans is in position number 11, and he's only a 10th of a second slower than him at the moment.
So have a look behind the 10. So Jackson Evans, 11. Will Davison, 12th. Thomas Randall, who's been fast all weekend, you would think would be up there somewhere. David Reynolds obviously over and out. Heimgartner, 15th. Also, you would think would be there somewhere. Percat was fast earlier. So there's quite a lot of people that are in that bottom part that might go better.
Watch Matty. He's just done a 51.3 in the first sector. The best we've seen in sector 1's a 51.24. So he's giving it a big squeeze here at the moment over the top of the hill. Matt Payne, fast Kiwi in the Penrite Racing entry. He's paired with multiple race winner Garth Tander. They've been a little bit uncomfortable with braking stability with this car, and he slid it out the other side of the S's there. He couldn't wag the rear of the car too much more than that. He's got it tucked nicely against the wall for the turn in at the elbow. And what's that second timing reference look like? A 33.4 is right on the money. Yep. It's almost identical to what Brock Feeney's done. So if he continues at this level, he's going to get himself out of jail, where he's right in that danger zone at the moment at the bottom of the 10, and get him up there in those top 3 or 4 cars.
If he can get it stopped down here nicely, make the change of direction. Let's have a look at the left-hander. Slightly wide. It was slightly wide. Didn't quite make the apex as nice as he would have liked. Big slide off the exit curb. He used that curb on the exit of the change of direction like a motocross berm. Battles to get it stopped. He does make the apex. And what's the number? It comes up to 5th. So that last sector, he lost 3.5 tenths versus Feeney.
Brendan Grove watching with Garth Tander in the bunker down there as we jump on board now with Will Brown. He's currently in 10th position because Will Davison just moved up 3 spots. So he's right on the fringe here, so he needs more to be safely in. Di Pasquale's gone to 11th now, outside the 10. Jackson Evans, 12. Heimgartner's just got into the 10 in the R&J Batteries entry. And Hill has just moved up 9 spots into position 16. When you consider the bruise on that car earlier in the day, that's pretty impressive. We jump on board now with Mostert. He's in 8th. He's gone faster over the top of the hill than the rest of the field. And he's eyeing up that final corner now. Gets it into second gear and turns it in early to make that apex. Throttle up early. Is this going to lift him out of the danger zone as well? No, last sector wasn't enough. 6.2. Keep pushing. 9.5 minutes remaining in qualifying for Boost Mobile. We're getting down to the business end here. And this is vital for those that want to play the game in the top 10 shootout.
It's young Ryan Wood, who remember earlier in the year was a rookie here, and goes up to 9th position, up 15 spots, and he's only 3/100ths slower than Chaz Mostert. Now, Will Davison now in the 10, Heimgartner 11, Will Brown, series leader, is 12th.
Ryan Wood only just barely missed out on Sunday in the opening round.
Very tight. I'll tune her up and we'll go for this last run. Still 9 minutes to go.
He missed out on the top 10 on Sunday here in the opening round, Ryan Wood, by just the tiniest of margins. So there was an expectation that he'd acclimatised pretty well here. He's one of the 6 Bathurst 1000 rookies, but he has had some exposure to the racetrack in a supercar on a hard tyre. Driver's eye view on board with Andre Heimgartner, and There was some conversation going on with Tony Woodward, his engineer, just a few moments ago. So he's sitting in 11th. They're tantalisingly close to getting in. Waters, he's position number 2 at the moment. He needs to find a quarter of a second, but you'd think on a flat 6 that he'd be relatively safe at the moment.
But the issue, based on where he's at, is that middle sector was nowhere near good enough. In fact, it's 0.6 of a second slower than Mostert. Oh, that's why. There you go. Oh, my God, that's close.
Ooh.
That is almost wiped the side out of the monster Mustang.
That was a Houdini escape.
Well, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's the down change.
Yeah. Third to second. And he got away with that by millimetres off the left-hand side. Meantime, Randall's gone straight ahead in the shortcut over the top of the hill as well. That was a near miss for Cam Waters that could have put him out of qualifying. He was just a fraction away from whacking the wall, and he'll well and truly know that one. It'll be interesting to have that conversation with him off the end of the session. We're 7 minutes away from a checkered flag. The vast majority of the field is back in the lane, contemplating their last set of tyres and their last run. What have they got in store for us, Reed?
Yeah, and Brady Kostecki only just getting pushed out into the lane now. They've been sitting in that lane, changing the right rear bottom arm. There's an issue for the front as well, but they're going to send it. It's not going to be good, but they're going to send it.
They have to. They have no choice. And he's drifted down to position number 6 now. And this is going to be high-intensity, high-stakes motorsport to determine those that might make it into the top 10 shootout, or to determine who is in positions 11 through 26, setting our grid for Sunday for our 11:30 race start for the 161 laps of the Repco Bathurst 1000. Our margins at the moment in favour of Brock Feeney over Cam Waters are pretty chunky, bigger than we've seen for a while. 0.2 of a second is a lot around this racetrack amongst this field at the moment, but the next group of cars, positions 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's nothing in it. It is a cigarette paper between all of those runners. You can see that light westerly at the moment blowing all the way down pit straight when you see the flags. The temperature's hovering around 22 degrees. There's a queue of cars energised, waiting to get out there and go and do their thing at the moment. We've got a little bit of cloud cover. What are the conditions going to be like? Are we going to see more people to get into the 5s and nudge some big numbers here? This is going to be fantastic. I love this end of qualifying. We're going to see pressure mistakes. We're going to see some wild stuff where supercars, 1.5 tons of these things, are squeezed up next to the concrete walls with bare millimetres to spare on every single one of the 23 corners around here.
This is going to be as good as it gets. And there are so many that are on the cusp here. Will Davison, Heimgartner, Brown, De Pasquale. They're 4 cars that you would expect to be in there somewhere. Can Mostert and Wood survive in the 10? Can anyone knock Feeney off for a 5.77? That gap that you spoke of, it's 0.25 basically between Feeney and Waters, and then it's 0.2 of a second across 2nd to 10th.
The executive summary of that is across these high-quality operators, there is 0.5 of a second in 6,200 metres of racetrack. Betty Klemenko and Daniel watching down there in the back of the Erebus garage. There is nothing in this. Clock inside 5 minutes now. Our most skillful drivers in the best cars with the best engineers and the best starter working towards coming up with the best result. This is the lap, or these are the laps, plural, where everything will be delivered. Every last little bit of squeeze that they can muster, all of the experience, particularly in the case of those that have done it over a long period of time, will apply every last little skerrick of skill that they've got to this lap.
Are you surprised they've sent Feeney with a 0.25, almost 0.25, quarter of a second over the field? Would you go again? Would you take the risk?
I hadn't given it a lot of thought prior to the question. I would probably have said no, but we've been caught before at the back end of these quali sessions where we've talked up the notion of safe and it's turned out to be anything but. You would think at a 2.5.7, surely that's going to be well and truly enough to be safely in. But if there's confidence in that squad and they've got the rubber, are in the hands of an expert, let's go for it. Here we go, folks. 3 minutes and 40 seconds on remaining as people start to cycle in now to their laps. And we're going to need eyes in the back of our heads to be able to understand who can do what in this high pressure scenario. Feeney at the moment is the top dog. From Waters, from LeBrock, from Stanaway, from Payne, Kostecki, Golding, Mostert, Wood and Davison. And then there's a whole bunch of other storylines for those that are outside the top 10. Notably our championship leader who's currently in 12th position. There he is. He's got to produce one big lap.
He certainly does, and he's going to use Brock Feeney as the bait. He's basically 70 or 80 metres there, and he's going to use him as the measuring stick. He's going to try everything he can to close that gap to Feeney, because Feeney's the fastest, and he's currently 12th. He's done a 6.3, Feeney's done a 5.7.
Jas Mostert, a reminder, has had 2 poles here. Cam Water, a reminder, he's had 2 poles here. Will Davison's had one, and so does Brodie Kostecki. They know what the high-stakes poker game's all about to get into the shootout tomorrow, but to achieve that, they've got to wriggle through a barbed wire fence called the last bit of Boost Mobile qualifying. Have a look at the intensity of these cars across the top of the hill. Will Brown is nailing this thing. That's 215 kilometres an hour on the brake pedal on the approach off the top of Skyline. And the car wriggles with momentum down the hill, throws it up onto 2 wheels, 80 k's out the other side of the dipper, grab 3rd gear, 185 kilometres an hour on the run towards the elbow, and wriggles in the rear, he arrests the speed, he gets 2nd gear, he touches that apex for 85 kilometres an hour, now he relaxes the grip, has a think about it, focuses on perfect shifts, he cannot afford to touch the rev limiter, building towards 300 kilometres an hour, and this is well more than 80 metres with every passing second. Have a listen. Flat through the chase, monstering the brake pedal, skating into the left-hander at the bottom of the chase, 3rd gear, and the direction change is nice. Into the final stop, a little brake bias change into the final corner. Cam Waters, meantime, is on a very good lap that might eclipse Feeney. It's a pressure moment. He's gone up to position number 2 on a 5.7. Waters has done a 5.6. So far, he is the fastest man. Waters, Feeney and Brown, our championship contenders, are covered by 1/10 of a second. Matt Payne has punched out a 5.6 as well. He's in there by 6/1000ths of a second. Payne, Waters and Feeney, 1, 2, 3. What a supercar show with 60 seconds remaining.
And Kostecki goes up, so does Mostert. So you cannot believe the gap across the top 6 cars. It's 0.14 across the top 6.
2 minutes 5.64 the reference at the moment for Matt Payne. Garth Tander's heart will be all but stopped there at the moment, holding his breath, wondering whether it stands. But what about the back end of the 10? Stanaway is 10th, Golding is 11th, Hill and Percat are 12th and 13th.
Pit exit, 30 seconds.
30 seconds to go. Feeney's pressing on. He's gone faster in Sector 1. He is throwing and skating that 88 over the top of the hill. Has he got traffic to contend with here? I caught a glimpse of another car. Just in the foreground at the moment.
It's Courtney.
And gets out of the way. Gives him clear passage. Well done, James. That'll be a giant relief for Brock Feeney. We're about to get an indication of the 2nd sector and how quick he was over the top of the hill. It was a 33.3. It's within striking distance of Mostert.
It's the best.
His Cume is the best. So over the top of the hill, he's a 10th away from Mostert, but he's on target to potentially knock off Payne, who's just gone straight ahead in the runoff at the top at Skyline. He's got to beat a 2 minute 5.64. Can he do it? He's in the braking area at the bottom of the chase. He's got it stopped, got it into 2nd gear. This is going to be so ridiculously close. Payne, Waters, Feeney, Kostecki. There is nothing in it. You are less than a 10th of a second apart when you look at across those 4 guys.
Incident, turn
to the line. Is this going to be enough? No, we've got trouble at the top of the hill for Percat. And trouble at the top of the hill with the Shell V-Power Racing entry for Davison. And a red flag catastrophe at the back end of quali. What a disaster.
But it was also, Neil, it was less than 50 metres for Feeney to get across there. So as Nick Percat goes over to check on Will Davison to make sure that he's okay, and we'll keep you up to speed as to how this incident has occurred. It has been a massive shunt just down from where David Reynolds went in the fence.
He's winded bad.
He's winded badly for sure.
Wow, what a conclusion to Boost Mobile qualifying. honestly, that intensity is off scale. Matt Payne, provisional pole celebrations inside the Penrite Racing Garage, but anxious people inside the Shell V-Power Racing Garage. Will's out of the car. Monstrous damage, unfortunately, to those cars. Oh, my goodness. So top 10, 0.3 of a second is the margin. The top 10 covered by a third of a second. Golding didn't make it. Hill, Percat, Davison didn't make it. And let's have a look at this replay and understand what's going on here. My goodness. Oh, he got wide on that jump that we spoke about.
Yep, that's
so
exactly what happened.
Yeah,
yep.
you called it a bit earlier. So Will Davison's just sidestepped there. He's arrived a bit too quick with it crossed up.
Yep.
That's flicked him into the wall. But what's the Nick Percat story? Oh, man, that is damage. Big time. Remember I talked about how they're at the grip limited edge? That's a vivid indication. Wow.
But I can't work out how Nick's got involved here. Maybe he did the same thing.
That's hurt him.
It certainly has. It's winded him for sure. But
well, it's put a dampener, unfortunately, on that great lap. But man, honestly, 6 1/1000ths of a second between Payne and Waters. I mean, you're not even breaking into a 1/10 of a second difference before you get to Will Brown. You're making a point there.
It's unbelievable. So it's 60 10,000ths of a second between 1 and 2. To Brodie Kostecki in fourth is 0.01 of a second. It is unreal. Unreal.
I mean, we promised intensity, and boy, that group of drivers out there did it in that session. Here's what happened to Will Davison. So got crossed up, got wide onto the oil, punched that wall. That car is a mess. That's going to be hard to recover from there. Okay. So I think he may well have, he's had a moment, but has he just stopped to help, or was there something further up the road? I think it's a bit of both is the answer to that question, and nice bit of sportsmanship here from Nick Percat.
Gee, that is a severe hit. And think about that. So we saw David Reynolds with that front-on collision only really 50 metres up the road, and then one further down the road where Will's made contact. It's actually a reasonably slow section of the racetrack. It's not... Oh.
Extraordinary conclusion to the back end of Boost Mobile qualifying. We've sorted out our top 10 runners for the shootout tomorrow, and we've frozen our grid from positions 11 through 26, and here's the confirmation now. I'd like you to focus on that right-hand column, ladies and gentlemen, because that is an extraordinary timing split. Those numbers down there, I'm not sure that I've ever seen anything like it at Bathurst before. I'd need to go back and check the record, but to have a situation where you've got this ridiculously tight margin across that first group of cars like that in such a long, complex racetrack, really an outstanding performance by all of those teams and drivers that were able to achieve it. But I'm saddened to see cars damaged to that level of extent, but heartened that Will Davison is all okay. So that is our order. Matt Payne's got the provisional pole. Big story building for the Repco Bathurst 1000 2024.
Big qualifying day here for Boost Mobile, and in the Anaconda highlights, boy, is there one or two hot topics to cover here in this one. Brodie Kostecki led the early part of this Boost Mobile qualifying session, the first car to lay down a hot lap, and that was after the first run of Dunlop tyres. The teams came back in. For car 88, they're still chasing a little bit of an awkward vibration. Despite that, Brock Feeney would end up third in this session. Back out there for that second run, Anton Di Pasquale getting nice and close to the Amarok signage across the top of Reed Park. Cam Waters trying his hardest in the Tickford team would end up finding himself up to second position in what was a really tight session. The first of the big moments to happen at the top of the hill. The Trady Beer Camaro out of shape, out of control, and a heavy head-on collision coming down through the bottom of Skyline, approaching the dipper. Warren Luff could only watch on. David Reynolds was okay, but was certainly feeling the frustration. That was the first of a couple of big red flag incidents that took part in this session. Aaron Love has the shockwave as that car slaps the wall at Silman Park. And then the guy who was quickest in the early part of the session in the Chico Camaro did the same thing, bent both sides of the right-hand side of the Chico car, and ultimately would stay inside the top 10 for tomorrow's shootout. 888 were happy with their performance. How about Cam Waters, the near miss for the Monster Energy car? That was so close to getting the wall up towards the elbow. Sam Potter and the team with a wry smile on their face. Matt Payne laid down a pretty handsome lap time in the last couple of minutes. And as the session ticked on, how about this? Will Davison, hard into the fence. Heavy contact on the left side, heavy contact on the rear. Nick Percat pulled up just to make sure that his friend was okay in the awkward position that car was stuck. Matt Payne tops it, and he'll be joined tomorrow in the shootout by his teammate. A great day for Penrite Racing.
Well, we are just catching our breath, aren't we?